refrigerated or frozen pre-made pie crust. What is up, everyone? Mark here with episode 8 of Pandemic Pantry, and today we're going to show you how to make chicken pot pie from scratch. When I say from scratch, I do mean from scratch. We are going to make the crust. That does not mean that you have to make the crust. You can use refrigerated or frozen pre-made pie crusts if you like. No shame in that. The one thing I'm not going to be showing today is the chicken part. You will need 3 cups of cooked chicken for this recipe, and you can get that however you like. Cook up a few chicken breasts, you name it. I actually got mine just breaking down a supermarket rotisserie chicken. They're inexpensive. They're great for a number of different things. I've noticed sometimes even when I order from that national chain named after a big northeast city that does chicken, there's a checkbox sort of somewhere that says, you know, add a rotisserie chicken for 99 cents or $1.99 or something. Either way, it's incredibly cheap. I do it every opportunity I get because then I can break it down, put it in the freezer if I don't use it in the next day or so. And I've got it for soups, chicken-based sloppy joes, you name it. It's impossible to pass up. But before we get started, I do want to thank you all again for continuing to support the channel, watch the videos, like the videos, subscribers, those of you who've subscribed. If you haven't subscribed yet, please click the button down below or the watermark in the corner. If you're not already on YouTube and watching this on Facebook maybe, please go over to youtube.com/markworm and you can subscribe there. And I guess that's it. Let's get started. Okay, so the reason I'm wearing these gloves today, which are just garden gloves with latex gloves over them, is to help insulate my hands a little bit because I'm going to be by hand cutting the cold butter into the flour for the pie dough. You can absolutely do this with a food processor if you like, but I just want to show that you can do this without fancy appliances. It's totally doable to do by hand. This just helps insulate, keep the warmth of my hands from melting the butter and making it more gooey than I want it to be. But for our ingredients, we have 2½ cups of all-purpose flour. We have 12 tablespoons of butter, which has been chilled really well and cut into about 1/2-inch cubes. We have 1½ teaspoons of salt. We have 1 egg, and we have 1/2 cup of sour cream. Now, the first thing we want to do is just whisk the salt together with the flour a little bit, just to get that combined. Okay, now we want to dump in our cold butter, and we want to work this with our fingers and kind of crumble it into the flour. And in the end, we want to get it down to where it's like pea-sized pieces of butter all mixed up in the flour. All right, now I know with time lapse and the way I cut this, I made this look pretty quick, but that took, a good 5 minutes of hand mixing and crumbling to get it to this state. And like I said, you kind of want it to have where the biggest pieces of butter that are left are pea-sized. And other than that, it kind of has a consistency and texture of like wet sand. All right, I'm gonna go wash my hands and we're gonna move on to the next step. Okay, so now the next thing we want to do is combine our lightly beaten egg Okay, and we're going to add to that the sour cream. And we're just going to try and get that combined as best we can with the egg. Okay, now we're going to add about half of this mixture to the dry. And get this mixed around. And let's add the rest of our liquid. Okay, I think that's pretty good. Now we want to get this out onto a lightly floured surface. And we really just want to knead this a couple of times, a few times, until it comes together and smooths out. Okay, now we want to divide our dough ball in half. I'd weigh it, but I'm not hugely concerned. Now we just want to pat these down into thick discs. About like that. Okay, I think those are about equal. Now I'm going to get these wrapped up tightly in plastic wrap. They're going to need to go into the refrigerator for an entire hour to chill. It's important that they get that full time. Then we'll come back and we'll roll these out. All right, so I'm showing you how to make your own pie crust because I really think a lot of people think it's harder than it is. I hope you'll take a shot at making it yourself. But like I said, there's no shame in using the ready-made pie crust either. And in fact, I have some here myself. So again, use the ready-made ones if you want to. If you're feeling a little bit more adventurous, then go ahead and I encourage you to make them just like I did here in this recipe. All right, so it's been about a half hour since our dough was in the fridge. I took it out for a few minutes just so that it wasn't super rock solid. And I did weigh both of these, and the slightly heavier one I'm using for the pie tin, pie plate, just so that I know it's got a little bit more to it, and I don't have to worry about it being large enough to come up the sides and all. So onto a lightly floured surface. We just want to carefully roll this out until it is about a 12-inch round. And the way I like to do this is to, it's going to kind of naturally end up with more pressure on one side or the other. I just try to kind of spin it as I go and kind of keep the pressure even or evenly one-sided, if that makes sense. Let's see where we are. A little bit bigger. Okay, I think we're good. So the trick to picking this up is to get it to start to roll on the rolling pin. And then you can also use the rolling pin to kind of lay it down into the pie plate. And we just want to straighten this out a bit. And make sure that it's into all of the edges here, and it doesn't leave any voids on the sides or on the bottom. And I'm just going to put the plastic wrap back on here to keep it from drying out. This is going to need to go in the refrigerator for a half hour. Actually, both of these, once we roll them out, will need to go in the fridge for a half hour. But not a problem. They'll have had plenty of time to cool while we work on the filling. Yeah, we're good. And again, we're going to cover with our plastic wrap just to keep the dough from drying out. And both the top and bottom dough will go into the fridge, like I said, for 30 minutes. I will take care of that, get a few things cleaned up, and we'll get started on our filling. All right, so while our crusts are chilling in the refrigerator, we can get started on the filling. Our ingredients here are 1 onion, 2 ribs of celery, and 2 carrots, all chopped into small pieces. About 1 cup of chopped potato. That worked out to be a medium, smallish potato for me. 1/2 a cup of cream, or half and half. 2 1/4 cups of chicken broth, and 6 tablespoons of all-purpose flour. And then we have 4 tablespoons of butter here. And for later in the recipe, 1/4 teaspoon salt and pepper for seasoning to taste. We're also going to need our 3 cups of cooked chicken, our 3/4 cup of frozen peas, and an egg for an egg wash on the top once we get later on in the recipe. But for now, the first thing we want to do is melt the butter and get the onion, celery, and carrots going. Okay, onions, celery, and carrots go in. Salt and pepper. Alright, so we're going to cook these for several minutes until they're starting to soften, and we'll move on to the next step. All right, these look like they're coming along pretty good. Now we're going to add our flour and keep it mixing. The flour is going to soak up all of the fat and liquid that's in here, and we want it to start to brown a little bit and get toasty. We just don't want the flour to burn, but we want to cook off that sort of floury taste. All right, we're looking good. Now it is time to add the broth, the cream, and the potatoes. And I want to stir this and bring it to a boil. And while stirring it, just scraping up any stuff that's stuck to the bottom of the pot while we've cooked the vegetables and the flour. Okay, we are at a boil, so I'm going to reduce this to a simmer. I'm just going to cover this, and we're going to let it go for about 8-10 minutes or so, just until the potatoes are cooked through and it's thickened a little bit. Okay, this looks perfect. I'm going to slide this off the heat. Add the peas. And the chicken. And we just want to mix this to thoroughly combine everything. All right, I'm going to go get our crusts and we'll get to filling. Okay, it is time to fill. And we just want to do our best to smooth it out as much as it can be smoothed out and flatten it as much as it can be flattened. Okay, now we want to carefully lay on our top crust and pinch together all around the outside. Now I want to cut off some of the excess, but I do still want to leave a little bit of overhang because we're going to tuck it underneath. Okay, so now we want to fold this underneath like this, all the way around. Now to make sure this stays crimped shut, you're going to take your fingers and make little things like this and go around the edge of the pie and just crimp it. I'm going to make 4 little slits along the top. And we just want to brush the top all over with the egg. Okay, now this is going to go in the oven at 450 for 20 minutes. At 20 minutes, we're going to flip the pan around and we're going to have it go for another 15 minutes, but we're going to lower the temperature to 375. And definitely a good idea to cook it on a sheet pan like this. I know it's going to ooze stuff out of somewhere. If not the slits, then something will bust open. But you don't want that all over the bottom of your oven for sure. Lowest rack you can. Okay, it's now been in here for a total of 35 minutes, and we should be ready. Well, didn't leak at all. All right, so here's the hard part. We have to let this cool for 45 minutes before we can cut into it. The problem is right now it's all liquid inside and it needs some time to cool and congeal and set up so that we can actually get something that resembles a somewhat sliceable chicken pot pie. So we're gonna let this cool for 45 minutes very patiently. I am hungry. And believe me, I want a slice of this more than anything, but we're gonna have to wait. So we'll give it its time and we'll be back to taste. All right, we're back. It's been about 45 minutes and we are ready to take a slice. Still pretty hot for been cooling for 45 minutes. The bottom crust isn't sogged out. Everything's contained. This is delicious. That kind of crust, that's why you want to make the crust yourself. Again, you can use store-bought crust, but it just won't be the same result. That's it for another one, guys. If you like the recipe, if you like the video, give it a thumbs up. I hope you give it a shot. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.